Okay, so touch the leg. And okay, not okay. I don't know, maybe I have a weird ear. Okay. Okay, so this workshop actually it's on Tantra of Tara. So this Tara practice in Tibetan Buddhism, actually we use this to bring actually courage, because Tara actually represent the fearlessness quality of enlightened beings, and also like in many practice, we specifically use Tara. For example, like even in our what do you call, daily mundane kind of like a fearful situation, we believe that Tara practice actually help us to bring this courage and fearlessness into like those circumstances or situation. So Tara is actually like known to be like fearlessness quality. Say like in Tibetan, like if you are going in the dark, or you are scared of some kind of wild animal, or if you are like scared of like a thief, or like, there are kind of like many kind of mundane worldly danger, like we recommend to use the Tara practice. And somehow, if you are in that kind of like a dangerous, fearful situation, if you actually call on Tara, or you just kind of remember the name of the Tara, or you just say the Tara mantra, which is like Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, or if you just kind of like fold your hand and remember Tara and just kind of recalling her name, will actually bring some sort of like a protection. So it is just like immediately it will help you to protect, and things like that. Kind of like in Tibetan Buddhist practice, we do that. And actually, there are many origin of Tara. Tara is there is a mythical story. I think most of you already know, right? Mythical story. It is. I'm not saying it is like a real or something. It's kind of symbolically it is true. And like in Tibetan Buddhism, or in general, like in the Tantra, we have many deities, right? And many deities such as Avalokiteshvara, who is the deity of compassion. And then we have like a Manjushri, like a wisdom deity. And then there are many positive qualities. So many positive qualities of the enlightenment actually, manifested into many different deities. So there are many different deities in Tantra. So in Tantra, we actually use, sometimes we say Debu Lamche. Debu Lamche means bringing the resultant enlightened, what do you call? Resultant enlightened quality. So what does that mean by that? What is that? Resultant Debu Lamdu Cheba. So how to bring the resultant enlightenment into this present moment. So that is one of the quality of the Tantra. So that is why maybe I will explain that later. So the literal meaning of Tantra and what is the quality of the Tantra in general. So specifically, today I am going to tell more on Tara, right? The Tantra of the Tara. So when we are learning on Tantra of Tara, first I think we need to understand what is the background mythical story of the Tara. So the mythical story was actually saying that there is a compassion Buddha. So this compassion Buddha, called the Avalokiteshvara. So, compassion Buddha, we call it like the Buddha, but to be a Buddha, you have to go through being a bodhisattva, right? So kind of like first you generate bodhicitta, and then you become a bodhisattva, and then gradually you practice 6 paramitas in your practice, and then slowly you developed into becoming an enlightened being. So this compassion Buddha, before actually he was a Buddha, that the mythical story, when he was a bodhisattva, so when he generated bodhicitta, the person who generated bodhicitta actually become bodhisattva. So I am actually assuming that most of you know the bodhicitta, right? Bodhicitta is actually Sanskrit word which actually means enlightenment, awakened mind. So bodhi means enlightenment, and chitta means mind. So it is kind of like when you fully generate, right? When you fully generate the mind, the decision, some sort of inspiration, not just kind of like a fabricated inspiration. Fabricated inspiration, we kind of, in our daily life, sometimes we do, like when we get into some sort of a difficult situation, then we will have some sort of a fabricated inspiration saying, oh, I wish I become enlightened. So if I am enlightened, then I will not have those problems. So it is kind of like just kind of depending on different situation, we get this kind of fabricated, not genuine. So fabricated means not sincere, not genuine. So it's kind of like the bodhicitta mind is a genuine mind, a genuine inspiration, right? Just kind of like you truly believe that enlightenment is the solution for your own suffering as well as other people's sufferings, or all the sentient beings suffering. So enlightenment is the solution. So you kind of you will have that kind of belief, or you will have that kind of trust, the trust towards the enlightenment, and based on that trust that yes, I really want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of myself and all other sentient beings. And that kind of genuine mind, that kind of sincere mind, or what do you call, inspiration or aspiration. So that is we call bodhicitta. So this kind of bodhicitta mind, whoever generated that kind of bodhicitta mind, we call that person bodhisattva. So Avalokiteshvara when he was a bodhisattva, when he generated a bodhicitta, his bodhicitta was very special. His inspiration was very special because he based completely and totally on compassion. And then his compassion was so strong that he even had that kind of genuine wish that all sentient beings come first. May all sentient beings go into enlightenment first, and then I will be the last person, and I will help. I will, whatever it takes, I will do my best, and I will help all sentient beings. So that kind of great compassion that he has, that is why he represents the compassion of all the enlightened beings. So his compassion was so special. His compassion was very deep. Something very special about that totally selfless. There are many bodhisattvas, yes, their compassion is selfless. Our Lokiteshvara compassion was just totally different. So somehow he was, his decision was that I will do anything it takes to save all sentient beings. So he was actually doing many activities and trying, putting all this effort of saving sentient beings from the whole samsara. So he even made this kind of commitment, right? He made this kind of commitment saying that if I get discouraged from saving sentient beings, then may I break into 1,000 pieces. May I break into 1,000 pieces, like that kind of commitment, he had. So he was, in the mythical story, it says that he was saving sentient beings for many, many kind of billions of trillions of human years. And then one day, out of curiosity, he wanted to see how much or how many sentient beings he had saved so far. And he's starting to look, okay, these are the sentient beings that I have saved, and these are the sentient beings still I have to work on. And what he saw, what he realized, and what he noticed is that the sentient beings that he had helped were just a drop out of the big ocean. It's like for billions and trillions of years he has been working to save sentient beings. The samsara is so huge that whatever, he must have saved billions of sentient beings, right? But when he compared how many he had actually saved, and it was just a drop of like a ocean. So the rest of the sentient being is like the ocean. The sentient being that he has saved is just a drop of water. So he kind of at that time he was thinking, now what I'm getting into. Is this something, does it worth it? I have spent all this thing, compassionately saving sentient beings, and now still so many sentient beings left. And I think, did I make a right decision or not? So somehow, when he doubt, right, there's kind of that kind of doubt arises in him that actually made him little discouraged. That maybe I think I cannot, maybe it is not possible. So he was kind of he got this kind of little bit of discouraged, or some sort of a giving up kind of, giving up some sort of a mentality that he has generated. And because he has made this commitment long time, saying that if I ever get discouraged, or if I ever get sort of like this kind of giving up, sort of like a mentality generate, may I break into 1,000 pieces, right? That's what it's kind of like a curse. He made his own curse like that. And then immediately, as soon as he has this kind of discouragement mind, that what happened was he actually broke into 1,000 pieces. So it is like he broke into 1,000 pieces, and then it says that Buddha Amitabha was the teacher of the Avalokiteshvara. So Amitabha actually appeared in front of him, and he said that, okay, my son, don't be discouraged, I will help you. So somehow Amitabha put these 1,000 pieces together, and then there was this like a figure called the 1,000-arm Chenresi. So, in the mythical story, like how did the 1,000-arm Chenresi actually came into existence was because he fell into 1,000 pieces. So when the Amitabha Buddha put these 1,000 pieces together, somehow, it actually become more like just kind of like once he actually break, and then when put it together, and then it just kind of like his compassion became more stronger. At the same time, he was so sad somehow that maybe a little bit of like a sad that how did I get that kind of like a discouragement? How did I even have this like a giving up moment? And then he was feeling compassion for all the sentient beings, and somehow it's in the mythical story. It says that compassion, the Avalokiteshvara, the 1,000-arm Chenresi, actually starting to cry. So he cries, and the tear actually flowing from both of his eyes, and then actually it become like the lake, like the lake in front of him, and then from the eyes, the tear that the water that falls, from there was a two lotus actually appears in front of him. So these two lotus appears in front of him, and both of these lotus, there is a two Tara actually awaken or arisen from the lotus, and then saying to Avalokiteshvara, saying that Avalokiteshvara, we are here to help you. So we will help you. So, you will never get discouragement from now on. And we are here to help you. So from, one eyes, the tears, the lotus came, and the green Tara appeared. And from the, another eye, that, the lotus appeared, the white Tara came. So that is the how the mythical story of the white Tara and green Tara actually arise from the tears of the Avalokiteshvara. So that is, so this kind of like symbolically actually, that is their commitment, which means Avalokiteshvara, please, relax, or just kind of saying, we will do all the work that where you want to save, and we will do. So that is why somehow that is how it became. The Tara is also the activity. So somehow, because they are born out of this compassion Buddha's or Avalokiteshvara's tear, and somehow they are actively saving sentient beings and doing the work. So that is why these two Tara, white Tara and green Tara, are actually the activity, which means Tinle in Tibetan. Tinle means the activities, the real blessing of the compassion. So in another word, the Tara is actually, what Tara represent the activities of all the Buddhas. So the activity of all the Buddhas means actually, in English, I think a simple word is compassion in action. So Tara represent the compassion in action. So it is not just like a, compassion that is just saying, oh, may all sentient beings be happy, and you're just sitting in the room, right? I think that is kind of like our compassion. So if we want to bring the Tara practice into our daily life, that means the more we put action, with our compassion, then it is like we are actually invoking the Tara in our daily life. So anyway, that is just the background story, the mythical stories of the Avalokiteshvara, and then how the two Tara actually come into existence. And at the same time, when you look at that, when you understand the whole mythical story, like when you look at the whole picture, somehow Avalokiteshvara is the compassion, and then Tara is the compassion in action. And also, how did actually Tara appear? Because when the compassion was giving up a little bit, there was a little bit of discouragement, right? And somehow it is like some sort of like a anxiety, some sort of like a worry, some sort of little bit, discouragement feeling that the Avalokiteshvara had, right? And so they came, the two Tara actually came into existence as like giving courage, right? Giving courage to the compassion. So that is why Tara represent the courageous or giving fearful, or also like a giving service. So it is like we are here to help you. We are here to do the service. So it is like Tara represent the service part. And like when we do the service, then what happened? When we are like activity, so the activity, when you are doing something, then you are actually moving, right? So when you are moving, then the movement itself is like when it comes to the physical existence. When it comes to the physical existence, our physical existence is actually made out of 5 elements, right? Physical existence. Any physical existence that you see, flower, table, like a chair, everything, if you look at that, then how does this actually came into existence? So everything is actually came into existence because there is 5 elements in it, right? 5 elements, 5 substances. That is from the Buddhist point of view. Actually, we say that everything has Sa means earth element, Chu means water element, and Me means fire element, Lung means wind element, and then Namka, which means like the space element. So somehow, when the physical existence has to manifest, or when it has to arise, the first thing what it needs? First thing, it needs the space, right? If there is no space, then there is nothing to actually come into existence. Something to come into existence, first, the base is, first you need the space. So the space space represents the emptiness nature. See, that, that is like everything, even from the scientific point of view, we say that the universe exists from the Big Bang, right? Even we go into the Big Bang theory, to where does the Big Bang actually happen? In the space, right? If there is no space, then Big Bang even will not happen, right? So even like, if there is no space, I don't think the flower will be here. If there is no space, then we, even our physical body will be not here. So somehow, every single existence, physical existence, the base is what we need is this space element, right? So space element plays a very important role in our existence. And then, if there is a space, then there is a movement, right? There is a movement within the space. Then, if there is a movement, then, things actually starting to, things starting to appear. So that is why, the movement represents the wind element. So that is what wind element. And then, after the movement, what happened is it is like, when you actually make the movement, the wind energy, then the fire comes, right? Even like when you, I don't know, maybe in the survival kind of like a thing, how you make the fire is you have to make some kind of movement, right? So without any movement, the fire will not come. So to actually have the fire, so it is like in the whole existence, first there was a movement. And then because there was a movement, the movement brings the fire. So there's a heat, there is a kind of like a heat. So this first is a space, and then there is a wind, and then there is a warm heat, kind of fire element there. And then, because of that heat, what happened is kind of like it will create some kind of like a water element, so liquid. So then there is like the earth element, the physical existence actually came out of that. So that is why every single existence actually is a combination or collection of 5 elements. That is what we say. So this kind of like once it is all formed, so then to keep it alive, right? To keep it alive, then to keep the balance. I mean, to keep the balance, you need to have the, the movement. So that movement, which is kind of activity. So that is why that activity part, which we call the wind element. So somehow Tara represents the movement part. So it is like even the Tara nature, if you really want to look at, where is the Tara existence? So Tara existence actually exists in every single existence. Wherever there is a wind element, Tara nature is there. So somehow it is like, Tara is connected with the wind element. So that is why, in Tibetan Buddhism, to balance, to bring the balance, we need to bring balance with the wind element. So when there is a balance, when the movement is right, when the movement actually is right, when it goes on a right speed or right movement, then everything is actually, everything is in balance, right? Like even, for example, if we look into the whole universe, even our planet, it actually moves, right? It moves in a certain speed. It moves in a certain speed, and because it moves in a certain speed, so it is balanced. And somehow the movement is balanced, and because of that, it is just kind of like the whole, our planet have so many things actually, there's a tree, there's all these kind of things happening because of that, right movement. So that right movement actually exists in every single thing, even in our physical body. So somehow, we we don't go with the nature, right? We don't go with our nature because we have this kind of very stubborn mind that, then this our mind is actually enslaved by our ego, right? Then our ego kind of get this kind of little knowledge, right? This kind of little knowledge, and then this, within the circle of our ego, and we have this little knowledge of the universe. And we have this little knowledge of our existence. And then we identify something different, okay, this is me, and this is the universe, and, our kind of existence, we move by our ego, so our mind is this very strong. So our mind is very powerful, and somehow this powerful mind is actually enslaved by this ego. So we actually don't listen to our real existence, and we just kind of listen to that little knowledge that we have by our ego. And somehow we kind of think that we are more powerful than nature, right? Our ego thinks that I am more powerful than nature, or somehow our ego gets into that kind of lazy mode, right? A lazy mode, and then what it does is actually it messes up our wind element. It messes up our wind element, and somehow we don't actually flow, or we don't go. We don't actually go with the nature, and we are starting to go off the road or against the nature a little bit. So it is when our physical body goes against the nature a little bit, then what happens is kind of we create this imbalance in our body. So we create this imbalance, where we create this imbalance first is we create that imbalance in the wind element. So when the wind element is not, flows well, then what happens is rest of the wind element, because of the wind element imbalance, it will actually mess up the fire element. So it is our body temperature. Our body temperature actually kind of little become messed. It is not kind of sometimes, it happens, right? When we have some sort of health issue, when there's some kind of bacteria or virus that comes into our body, it actually messes up the wind element. And because of that wind element messes up, then what happens is the fever comes, right? It's the heat actually, body temperature actually starting to kind of go off the balance. And then, when we are too cold or when we're too warm, then actually it messes up your water element, right? And water element messes, and then the whole physical a mess up. So that is why somehow it is kind of to bring the balance even in our physical body. We need to know how to bring balance in the, wind element. So Tara actually represent the wind element, and somehow if we connect more with the Tara, then it will help us to actually bring more, wind element balancing, right? Wind element balancing in our daily life. So that is why somehow white Tara especially, right? White Tara is a symbolically, we call white Tara a long life deity, right? Long life deity. Why it is called long life deity? Because white Tara symbolizes the balance of the wind element. So when we have a balance of wind element, then everything seems like moving in a right direction. When our wind element goes a little bit towards the wrong direction, then it is starting to go, all our health system going into a wrong direction. So that is somehow white Tara and the life force has a connection like that. Even sometime, how if we look into our body, Our body is actually made out of 5 elements, right? Our body is made out of 5 elements. Like, for example, on the surface, like we have this flesh, like a bone, like the solid part, right? All this solid part is, we say, from the Buddhist point of view, we say that's the earth element. So earth element. And then we have all the liquid in our body. So like all the liquid is a water element. And then we have a temperature, right? We have a right temperature. Somehow our body has, I don't know how our body makes this kind of great temperature, which is like somewhere around 98 Fahrenheit, right? It's just kind of interesting. Somehow, if it is 98 outside, it's really hot. But we, our temperature in our body is just somewhere around that, right? So like anyway, there is a temperature which is that heat, that kind of warmness, right? That heat is we call it earth, fire element. And this, like a fire element actually goes into, like ZaChoeje Rinpoche, like, and then it creates the movement in, like what do you call, earth element, right? Earth and wind element. Like, when all these elements are alive, then we make the movement, which is those movement or breathing or heartbeat. There's like a movement of heart. There is a movement, the blood circulation, like there's like all this different activity. There's all this kind of small cell, like a trillions of cell in our body that is actually, everything is moving, right? Everything is making some kind of movement. And like if we look deep into our body system, like through the microscope, it is just so busy, right? Even in our blood, there's so many cells that just kind of like, just like a crazy world, right? Really busy. They are all busy. They are just kind of, everything is doing their own work, right? Everything is busy with doing something. Okay, they are saying, this is my job, this is my job. So there is some kind of new guy comes, no, you cannot come, right? So it is kind of like, when you look deep into our physical existence, there are so many movement, right? Even like the gross movement, like for example, heartbeat, right? There's like a heartbeat, that's the movement. And then like a movement of like our lung with the breathing, right? When we breathe in, our lungs fill, and when breathe out, our lungs, kind of like a contract, sort of like so. There's kind of like a rhythm. There's like some kind of like a movement. So if we look into our body, there is like a movement plays a very important role. So when there is all this moving, and then we call it alive, right? And they are beautiful. They are beautiful when they are moving. When all the cells in our body stop moving, when they become still, then there's no wind element. So wind element actually is gone. So somehow in our body, the five element, 5 element space is just kind of space, right? But the action actually happening, activity happening in our body with these 4 elements. So somehow these kind of like 4 elements or 5 elements in our body, there is a center of these, sometime in this kind of like Tibetan or Sanskrit ancient language we call chakra, right? The chakra, like crown chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, navel chakra, then base chakra, and then sometime, you can extend the chakra into 7 different chakras or, 4 different chakras. So chakra basically means like the point, or it is like the station. Sometimes I call this like if there is a big city, in the big city, there are a few different stations, right? The transportation, so like for example, you are traveling by bus or you are traveling by train, so there is like a few important stations, right? So you stop there and then you know go to like another destination. Somehow there is a lot of energy movement. There is like there's a movement in our body. This movement is just kind of it is just kind of like a lot of it's like our body is like the big city. Our body is like the big city, and there's all these beings are moving around, just like everywhere moving. And then there is 5 important hubs or stations. 5 important stations that actually, from there sends the different message and different energy. So somehow, if we look at our body, then our body has the station of these 5 elements. So 5 element station, for example, like this heart, like a heart chakra, this is actually where the space actually, where the space element is. So somehow space element, which, I think is supposed to be the station of the space element is the heart chakra. So heart chakra is like, somehow there is a kind of like not, because it is on the, our chest level, on the heart level. So it is not like when we say heart chakra, people say physically go into, okay, it is inside the heart. It's not inside the heart. It is just on this level, like a heart level. So this, like somehow this, like heart, heart level, or this like a chest level, that is where the, actually the main station, right? The main station, because that is the space. And space element station is here. And then, like if you go a little bit up, then, from heart, here it is the throat chakra, right? Throat chakra is considered to be the fire element hub. So it is like the fire element actually hub, like I don't know, is here on throat. And somehow, when this go down to the navel, so then there's a navel chakra, which is the earth element. So see, the space element chakra is here, fire element is on the throat chakra, and then navel is like the, earth element. So somehow earth element, because I think if we like it is the middle of our body, right? Middle of our body is the navel, sort of like from down, so it is kind of supposed to be that way. But sometimes, our physical structure kind of like some people have a longer leg, some people have an upper torso kind of longer. It's just kind of like that, just individual base. But generally, like this supposed to be, the navel is supposed to be the, actually the center of our body, not the here. It is center is actually here. And somehow, earth element, the gravity, the gravity, the body, we're actually, pulling. And even like this is the center, like when we were actually conceived, when our body was actually made, when our body made by the, like our, the substance, true substance from our father and mother, the first thing what happened actually is not the heart, actually. It is actually the navel part here. So somehow, first, the first chakra actually is like somehow this navel, and then from there, something wind energy goes up. And then, like the consciousness actually conceived to the heart. So there was some kind of movement in the Tibetan text. It says something like that. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm just not talking from the science point of view, just talking from the, like from a Tibetan, what do you call? text, what I saw from the text, what I learned from the text. Anyway, so these three elements, see, the fire element, space element, and earth element here, right? And then when from the throat, if you go to the crown, that is actually what do you call? Water element. So somehow water element station is here. So station doesn't mean you have a more water here or anything. I think that is where the, like for example, like like you have a thermometer, right? To control your air condition, like where you control where you make the air condition kind of like raise the temperature higher or lower. Actually, the wind is not coming exactly from there, right? It is just you make them change there, and then it changes somewhere there, right? Something like, for example, like it's like on this area, there is somehow fire element is here. Doesn't mean it is you have a heat here. But sometimes, like scientifically, it makes sense too. Like a thyroid is here, right? Thyroid plays a very important role in burning up, right? And a body's heat actually, like something I don't know. There is a deep connection between digestion and the thyroid, right? Something, there is a connection. And then scientists also say that the brain, like towards the neck, there is one part of a brain that actually controls the heat, right? Temperature, right? The temperature of our body, somewhere here. I don't know. Like that's just what I heard. I'm not authorized to talk about the science, but somehow when I saw this, like the earth element is here, so I wanted to know why is that? Maybe is there a scientific kind of like similarities there, and then like that fire element, maybe the thermometer is somewhere in the throat area here. So anyway, water element sort of like a controller is here too. So that is why water element station is the crown chakra. Fire element, of our body, the center is here. The space element is here, and then earth element is here. And then the base chakra, which is like under the navel, the base of our, like it is just like where our tailbone is, right? Where our tailbone is, that area, we call it like the base chakra. So that is the base. And actually, the wind element is there. So the wind element is actually in that, like the bottom or the base chakra. And somehow, the wind element is there, and then rest of this, for example, rest of our body, if we move down, most of the movement that we make, we are supposed to make, the movement that we are supposed to make is by our, our body is built up that way, right? We are supposed to move our body from one, location to another location by moving our legs, right? Somehow, when we move our leg and walk, then what happens is it actually creates the wind element. So it is somehow, from a Buddhist point of view, also, I think it says that the best, what do you call, exercise to keep your body moving is, if you walk. So that is like, I think maybe Buddha Shakyamuni actually knows that. I heard from his Buddha's life story that Buddha walked everywhere. Somehow, if you look into the history of Buddha, even those days, they have a horse. They have a horse. They have the, what do you call, like a horse chariot, right? Especially all those kings and, like the royal or the, like the businessmen, when they travel from one end to another, another city, they use like the chariot, like a horse, chariot car. It's like a car those days. So, sometime, when Buddha was invited by some royal families, and they sent a lot of chariots or horse, to bring them. And then Buddha always say, okay, I'm okay. Thank you. I don't need a chariot. If you invited me, it is good. I like to walk, and I will walk.